Okay, so let's be really good and start it off from the top. This is our podcast.
This is our podcast. We are Creatures of the Night Paranormal, and you're listening to another paranormal episode. That's so bad. Can you just edit all of that out?
Gosh, when are we going to get like a proper intro?
You know what?
Never?
I think would really help. It would never. It's never going to start. I think, you know how like when you're listening to our other podcasts, not like ours, but like, you know.
I was like, you have another podcast?
The one that I haven't told you about yet? No. But when you listen to them, they come right in after the music. So I wonder if they have like something playing that cues them to realize, okay, it's actually starting. Here's the intro music. Or do they just do magic like we do? We just edit it together and it sounds like we know what we're doing. I don't know.
I would imagine they have to be editing it together, but that's just because I want to believe everybody struggles the same as we do. So
right.
It's all normal. So whatever. This is our podcast. Fine. It's not a good intro. I don't know what you want from us. My name is Wendy. Gosh.
I like that. And sometimes I'm Chris or Trina. It depends on the episode. So I was off of work on Friday because apparently, they give us Good Friday. They took away one of our other holidays, but we have Good Friday off, which is weird and random, but it's great because nobody else really has off. So I can kind of do things that I want to do without getting, interference from anybody. Like on the weekends, you've got, just your 2 days and like everybody in the world is off too. So it's just everything is cram-packed with people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like if you try to go anywhere, don't try to go to fucking Costco pretty much any day. I don't know when is a good time to go to Costco, but it sure as hell is not the fucking weekend. No, everybody and their mama is there and their great grandma. I mean, like they go way back and they bring everyone. It's an event. That's why they serve so much food, just so you can survive the trip through there.
And those
snacks
carts
along
are
the way.
Massive, so it's really hard to maneuver through a store that crowded with those big ass carts.
I can't take it. My anxiety, like in being in crowds, I can't handle it. We go there and it's like, grab the toilet paper, let's go. This is all we're getting. I can't do it. But anyways, I'm sorry. Back to your story. Yes, weekends kind of fucking blow, and then you've got errands to run and stuff too. So we should have 3-day weekends.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. But I was like, okay, I could spend this day and do my running around because like we just said, it's great to get that out of the way and not have to deal with the crowds and stuff. Or I can do something haunted.
Yes.
And this actually started for me like a couple years ago because another place that I worked at gave us Good Friday off. And I went and found a cemetery in Massachusetts that had these alleged like vampire relation. I was super excited that I found it. It was a lore episode, that Aaron Mankey did. It's like, yay, here it is. So I wanted to do the same thing on Friday because, like I said, I had the whole day to myself. But we had storms moving in, which I have terrible like sinus pressure and I don't know. I just get a lot of pain. I have the worst headache, I guess. It's not like a migraine. I just a lot of pressure. So I'm dealing with a sinus headache. I could just stay inside, but I know it's my like one chance to like go out and do stuff. So I was surfing the internet, struggling to like actually leave. And while I was surfing the internet looking for haunted or weird things near me, I came across this magic retirement or retreat that just so happened to be a one-time home of Aleister Crowley. This magical retreat or whatever, I want to say it said that it was a retirement for him. He stayed in New Hampshire with a medium doing all sorts of crazy Aleister Crowley type shit. And I thought, well, that'll be cool. I'll just drive there and take a couple of pictures. But it turns out that place is 2 hours away. So with this headache and then a total of 4 hours on the road, that idea got axed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But while I was researching that house, I found out that he had his crazy haunted cursed mansion up for sale, which is like off of Loch Ness. And it was a one time it was owned by Jimmy Page too, because apparently Jimmy Page is, isn't that crazy? He was a huge Aleister Crowley fan, which makes a lot of sense because he was supposed to be like a wizard and into dark magic and all of this stuff. And they say that he got a lot of his ideas for, music and stuff from the dark, entities or whatever, dark magic from Aleister Crowley. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that it's really creepy and really, it was all neat that I found all of that. So it kind of got me super excited. I'm like, yay, okay. I got my motivation going, even though I had a headache. So even though all of that was really cool, I decided to kind of stay close to home. And I took a hike in a cemetery in Portsmouth.
Sounds like a fair trade-off.
It's close, right? Exactly. I got a huge bottle of water and a tea, and I'm like, I'm going to go finally find the graves of the Smuttynose murder victims. They are actually pretty easy to find once you find the grave of John Pickering. But until you do that, I mean, this is a very large graveyard. So to anyone from New England that's listening, or that are just, they're listening and they're like maybe not in New England, and you happen to come to this graveyard looking for them, just don't go wandering around. You need instructions. You can't just stumble upon them, because I've been trying to do that for years, and I just found them with very good detailed instructions. So, and just to give you a very brief history on them, they were, this was speculated as being a robbery turned murder. The murderer killed Karen and Annette with an axe. And it's a very deep story that one day I'll fully get into. But because the Isles of Shoals are allegedly haunted, Smuttynose being one of them, I was drawn to the locating their final resting place. So those were the Smuttynose murder victims. Yeah, and I took some pretty neat pictures. The clouds were insane because, like I said, the storm was like brewing all day, which it finally got here, and it's been raining all day.
Oh, doesn't that make the best pictures, though? And I love the weather right before a storm comes in, and then you put it in that kind of setting in a cemetery, and, oh my gosh, this sounds like the coolest day.
It turned out really neat, and if it wasn't for my damn headache, it would have been just spectacular. But the headache made it so bad. They're doing all kinds of construction in Portsmouth, so it's like, I just felt like, can I just stay in this graveyard and not have to leave because I have to get back out on the road? And
that's very morbid, but
it is a very morbid
I'm sure
thought.
The spirits there would appreciate your company.
I'm hoping that they're getting used to me because the cemetery is kind of within close proximity to where I work, so I go there often. Like, I've put a bunch of pictures online of that cemetery before, and there's some like local legends that come out of that graveyard too. So it's a cool place to hang out. If you're into morbid shit like that, just go hang out at graveyards. But it's cool. It is a massive cemetery. And if we end up going to the Isles of Shoals, now I know exactly where those two ladies are put to rest, and I can take you there.
Yeah,
first.
We can pay our respects before we go over there. And don't say if we go. We will go.
I've got a massive list. So.
Yeah, I know. But for the listeners, I'm not planning on, I have plane tickets. And you know how they don't like to give refunds. So I'm for sure going to New England to visit you for 4th of July, which is so exciting. I love your area for holidays and stuff. It was so cool for Thanksgiving, so I can't imagine what it's like for 4th of July. So I'm really psyched about it. 4th of July is like one of my favorite holidays, second to Halloween or whatever. But right. I really love the summertime, so I really love fireworks and just the summertime vibe and stuff. So 4th of July is one of my favorites. So I know it's going to be really cool to be somewhere so cool for that holiday.
In downtown Dover, they'll do a reenactment out in City Hall. Like, they're in full like colonial gear, like doing like a reenactment of something. They do old shit.
There's probably
so I know
many
like
battles. So I mean, it's just anything. This was this is probably just a normal day in the area in the beginning.
Right, probably right. They do it in Portsmouth too, and I've missed the one in Portsmouth. So this year when you're up, we'll try and hit that. It's just they do everything first thing in the morning. So getting out first thing, yeah, it's tough.
And getting like 7 people out the door too, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that was my day off. Now, I have a story for you. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah. Your day off was 10 times better than my day at work, just so you know.
Oh,
it was super slow at work. So part of it I just spent watching YouTube videos. So.
Oh, lucky. Oh my gosh.
I love getting paid to just bullshit. Luckily, nobody that works with me listens to this podcast.
Oh, man. I wish I could do that. My work week was so bad. So to make my week better, I had to go and bullshit at a graveyard, right? So yes, now I have a very paranormal story to tell you. And man, it's a good one. So I know that you've been wanting to explore all of the very affordable and very beautiful United States of America. So I've got something new for you to add to your list. And guess what, Wendy? It's in Chicago.
Oh, I've never been to Chicago. As close as it is kind of to Memphis and everything, and we've been up in that area. Nothing's ever taken me to Chicago yet, but I so want to go. And you could take train rides from California to Chicago. It'd be really cool.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I just thought you meant you could take train rides in Chicago. I was like, yeah, you sure can.
No, but I guess you might have to go up to San Francisco to get on that train, but it takes you to Chicago, and then you could take one that's even further to like New York and then come back. I mean, how cool does that sound? So,
oh my God.
Anyways, let's go to Chicago.
Okay, so I came across the story a little while ago, and of course, my first reaction was like, Dad, why didn't you ever tell me this? As if I was 16 years old again, like, how could you? And when I asked him about it, he was like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought about this place in 100 years. So my dad is not 100 years old. It's just his way of saying not in a really, really long time. But to tell you my story, I have to go back 100 plus years, and I didn't want you thinking, oh my God, her dad's a vampire.
That would be amazing, though.
I know, that would be my best story ever. So we're going to have to go back to 1860, which is when Lake Park was first established by Chicago on the land just to the north of the city's burial ground. 5 years later, on June 12th, 1865, the park was renamed to honor the recently assassinated President Abraham Lincoln and has been known as Lincoln Park ever since.
He's my favorite.
I know he's your favorite. And honestly, that wasn't even part of my story, but when I saw that, I'm like, I have to add this. In Chicago City Cemetery, the first burials date all the way back to 1843. But in 1859, the city decided to stop selling lots because city residents did not like the location of the cemetery. It was located on low land and within close proximity to Lake Michigan. Many believed that this was contaminating the water supply and aiding in the spread of diseases such as cholera. And so the burials at City Cemetery came to an end in 1866. They then began re-entering the deceased into newly opened Rose Hill Cemetery, and by 1870, the disinterments were completed. I just threw up air quotes for Wendy to see. The cemetery claimed to have gathered over 30,000 corpses by the time it officially closed down in 1866. And in 1869, the cemetery grounds were passed over to the Lincoln Park Commissioners, which is when the rumors that many bodies were actually still buried in the cemetery had started to circulate. The story, of course, was made a whole lot worse when the Chicago fire of 1871 destroyed any remaining cemetery markers. By some estimates, up to 10,000 forgotten graves remain in the park to this day.
Damn, that's a lot.
A lot. Yeah, I know. It's not just like, I mean, even if it is just a couple hundred, that's still bad. This is 10,000
Well, yeah.
people.
I mean, if you're going to get lazy and just be like, why are we actually even moving all these bodies? Nobody will know. You're not going to stop at 100. You're going to stop at 10,000. I mean, you're going to be like, this is getting to be way too much work, and we still have 10,000 more to go.
Yeah, I feel like because they just stopped so abruptly, like maybe there was a rush to start building there. Or, they're just like, yep, it's done. I don't know.
I bet they just moved like all the high figures, really prominent family type people. And then they were like, who the fuck cares about these other people?
Oh, man, yeah. There was actually 4,000 Confederate soldiers who died at Camp Douglas. They were buried in a potter's field, and it's thought that they're under what is now a baseball field. So they didn't even bother moving like Confederate soldiers.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Does this make like a Field of Dreams type effect?
I know.
That would be the best story.
Look, I was going to say, how cool would it be? So that's kind of, my whole story is kind of cool like that. I mean, if you were a Confederate soldier and you were just underneath not a graveyard, but underneath a baseball field, wouldn't that be kind of a cool place to be?
Yeah.
I mean, constantly getting visited. But to this day, many stories of human remains being found are very real for this area. Most recently at a construction site, I say most recently, this is 1998 we're talking, they just kind of found some human remains while they were building something. So, yeah. Adding to the dark history of Lincoln Park was this 42-foot high bridge, which stood from 1894 to 1919, originally meant to be a location from which visitors could enjoy the beautiful scenery, but became more well known as a popular place from which to commit suicide by either jumping from the bridge or hanging themselves.
Great. There's always somebody ruining the fucking party. No, that's really sad to say, because those people were in a bad place. I'm sure that they would have they enjoy having that nice, beautiful view, see something beautiful right before.
True.
Is what I mean. So I don't mean to make it ugly.
No. No, it's not. It's sort of the same situation as many people going to hotels to do the same thing. They want something nice, something beautiful, a nice hotel, something also that they wouldn't have to bother their family with cleaning up if, they... But anyways, Suicide Bridge. Sure, it was beautiful. It is thought that up to 100 people met their end on this bridge, earning it the sinister nickname of Suicide Bridge. The park district became greatly concerned and talked about fencing the bridge over or tearing it down. It survived until 1919, when it was finally torn down. And by that time, the bridge had become so rusty that anybody going across it was pretty much risking their life anyways.
That's kind of insane, though, that the city was like, this is happening way too much. Let's fence it off. That's extreme.
That is extreme.
I was not thinking of it to that level. I thought, like 15 people went up there or something. It's just very common spot. Not that they're like, this is becoming a problem.
I had the number of where it ranked on popular suicide bridges. I did put a note in here that the most popular suicide bridge now to this day is San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. Between 1937 and 2012, it's had an estimated 1,600 bodies that were recovered who had jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge. So
that's not even a list I would think to look for.
Put together,
but of course, there's a list of everything. So somebody spent their time calculating all this shit. So that's insane.
Yeah, I mean it's disturbing to say the least. So, going back to the cemetery, when it was shut down, the city had the area turned into a space for recreation, which it had eventually expanded to the 1,200-acre park that it is today, complete with ample open spaces, landscaped gardens, a conservatory, a history museum, a nature museum, a theater, playgrounds, beaches, various hiking paths and trails. Mm-hmm. Basically just a ton of outdoorsy stuff. And then, of course, the zoo. All of which are frequented by people who mostly have no idea that there are thousands of forgotten corpses still buried under them.
That is crazy. I was going to say the museum is probably really kicking and very interesting. You know what I mean? Like with all those artifacts and then what's going on underneath it too. But you throw in a zoo and it's just like, wait. Back up.
The zoo is the whole reason why I wrote this story. Now, those other places might have some killer stuff going on too. I didn't even look into them. I was just like,
no, I want to hear the zoo. That's what I want to hear about.
Okay, you're going to like this. So the Lincoln Park Zoo was opened in 1868, which makes it one of the oldest zoos in North America. In 1874, a bear cub from the Philadelphia Zoo was the first animal actually purchased by the zoo. Hold on. And I ate him. He was delicious. Mostly all of their animals prior to purchasing the bear were actually donated. And I thought that this was so funny. The bear became quite adept at escaping from its home and would frequently be found roaming Lincoln Park at night. Can you imagine? Like, rawr! You're just like taking a stroll. I mean, hopefully
and then
not
there's a bear.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, bears are common in a lot of areas in North America, but I don't think around Chicago is. So you're like, that's fucking crazy. To get caught off guard by a bear.
Right. I didn't see anything about him attacking anybody, so I hope that would have been out there, but something else later on in the story makes me think that maybe not. But anyways, another fun fact for you, Wendy, you're going to love this. The zoo's admission is completely free all year round.
Are you calling me a cheapskate? No.
No, we just love free paranormal places.
I love free places. Like,
free places. Yeah.
Free zoos for sure. Like,
free zoo.
Yeah. The St. Louis Zoo is free too. And it's ginormous. Yeah. I mean, the parking is where they get you because it sucks ass. Yeah. And I'm sure it's bad. It's with this zoo too. But it's a clever trick they put on. The zoo's free, and then you get there and parking's $15 a person or something. And you're like, wait, no, it's not really that much. But
yeah, I would suggest we probably park far off somewhere at like a bus station or a train station, as you brought up earlier, and maybe take the train and walk from there because I bet parking is a bitch.
I bet.
So Lincoln Park Zoo has also had its share of finding surprise corpses. One, which was unearthed in 1962 when a new barn was being constructed to become part of a farm connected to the zoo. But check this shit out. Considering all the major legal issues that they were about to face in dealing with the unidentified body, the zoo director at the time, Dr. Lester Fisher, purportedly made the rather morbid decision to just have the corpse placed right back where it was and build the barn right over it.
Wait, how is that even legal or possible?
Right.
I mean, like, you did discover it. Something has to be done about it. You can't just be like, pretend y'all didn't see that.
Just keep putting the barn down.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what you saw. Here's a 20. Go get you a good sandwich. I don't know.
How did they document that and that be okay?
Look, I just wonder if, like, that is the reason why the zoo was free. They're just, like, so, like, how could he have done this shit? Let's just make it free. And that's it. Everyone can enjoy
Everybody
it.
will love us.
And now everyone's in on it because they know that this shit went down and they're here. So I just like that the guy's name is Dr. Lester Fisher because every time I say Dr. Lester, it reminds me of Silence of the Lambs. Okay, but knowing this little interesting tidbit, combined with the numerous bodies still lost under the park and all the suicides, would you be surprised to hear that the zoo is quite haunted?
What?
What?
You don't say?
Yeah, right?
I was hoping.
I was also going to remind you that it was free, and at this point say that maybe someone feels really horrible about the decision that they made a long time ago to build a barn over an unmarked grave, but I already said that. Maybe they have like bottom of the barrel animal exhibits here.
No. The St. Louis Zoo is amazing. And like I said, it's free. I don't know where they get their funding from and really how they make their living. But I mean, I guess just what they sell inside the park and everything. I think it's possible other zoos, because I know so many zoo owners listen to this podcast.
Oh, wait, we're building up speed, so maybe 1,000 downloads and growing.
You never know what people's profession is, but it might very well be possible to make going to the zoo not $1 million.
I know, I love that. I mean, look, the only
San Diego Zoo.
San Diego Zoo, you're right.
Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
I don't remember the Memphis Zoo being like an arm and a leg, but I did know you paid admission and then you had to pay for additional exhibits while you were there. It wasn't like the whole thing was one price.
But see, well, we know because we live there and grew up there, but like it used to be so cheap. And then every time they put a new exhibit in, the admission goes up a little bit. I mean, whatever. It's whatever. I want the animals to have a good life. So if it costs that much, I'm such an animal freak. I'm like, whatever.
Right. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that while we were in Memphis, I dragged my husband and my son to as often as possible. Like it was almost like now when I'm like, let's go to Salem, they're like, God, again. It was the same thing at the zoo. It's like, seriously, how many times do we have to see the penguins? And I'm like, all the time.
and my family, we're zoo fanatics. So like when we go to other cities and stuff for so long, it was like, what are the things to do, especially when you have kids and you want to keep them busy? It's always like, well, they got a zoo, so that takes care of it. Now they're a little older, so we don't just necessarily, but like I just said, we were at the San Diego Zoo last year. I mean, and it was something everyone wanted to do. We're nuts. We just like got to see the same fucking animals all the time.
I think it's a cool experience. It's a great way for the family to spend the day. You don't just get to go out on your street and see, I mean, you do, but like you don't just get to go out on your street. I mean, I get to see turkeys, you know, and deer when I go outside, but that's the gist of it. I don't get to see like all kinds of other exotic animals.
And that's the thing. I think that's why we keep going to all these zoos, is because you just never know. They might have that one thing you don't get to see all the time. I think the San Diego Zoo had, what was it? They're like the cows of the sea. I think they had manatees.
I love that.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I know for sure they had a baby monkey while we were there.
Aww.
And the Columbus Zoo in Ohio is amazing. They have all kinds of animals you don't get to see all the time. They have a fucking moose. And that's the only zoo I know that has a moose. I mean, I haven't looked into all the zoos, but from all the ones that we've went to, they had manatees, and I think they had manatees, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I think everybody has manatees, but I know that's not true. But they definitely had a moose, and the Toronto Zoo doesn't have fucking moose.
I would love to see a moose someday.
Yeah. And it's so easy. You just walk up and you're like, that's a fucking moose. There, I finally got to see one.
I mean, I imagine one day we'll go camping. There's a place called Moose Alley, and you're supposed to be able to see moose roaming just all over the place, you know, just like, you know, they're everywhere, like frogs are where I live. But I don't know. Until that day happens, I'll probably find one in Ohio before I find one here.
That's what I'm saying. They're so elusive. They
are. We've even come to the conclusion that we'll find a unicorn before we find a moose here. So back to this zoo and it being haunted. The Lion House is said to have frequent visits from a spectral woman wearing white Victorian era clothing. She is seen wandering about, not noticing anyone around her. She's at the zoo.
She's busy watching she's
looking at animals.
She's probably wondering where these fucking tigers came from. You know, they weren't there before.
It's blowing her ghostly mind.
Yeah, she's like, what?
Also, this particular ghost apparently has a rather unnerving habit of being visible in the bathroom mirrors of the ladies' room.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like, I mean, you know, Bloody Mary, but not so much she's not going to kill you or anything. Apparently, you'll see her in the mirror behind you, but when you turn around, she gone. She's like, nope.
Oh, that would be freaky.
That's why I said unnerving. Yeah, a lot of witnesses have reported seeing that. So there you go. Spectral lady in the bathroom. There's other phantoms reported too, all which happen to wear Victorian period clothing and have been seen in different areas of the zoo. They appear and disappear within moments and all seem to be just going about their lives as if they have no idea that they are dead. So just like the best free show anyone could ask for.
Yeah, you get to see animals and ghosts. This is like the coolest place ever.
I know. That's what I was like,
I bet the ghosts like it too. Like once they come to the realization.
That's what I'm saying. Safe. Right.
Because they're ghosts. So.
Right. Look, honey, look what I can do.
What's the worst thing that can happen? So they can go up and touch like the animals and stuff.
Yeah, or freak them out. You know, animals can see that. Yeah, they might be getting them riled up, too. That might be a really good show, you know? It's always better when the animals are active, not like at the Memphis Zoo where it's like 1,000 degrees and they're like, kill me, please.
They're like all panting.
Yeah, it's like, look at that one breathing.
Raspily breathing. So thirsty.
It doesn't even want to go near the water because it's boiling. But other phenomena includes disembodied voices and ghostly footsteps, as well as slamming doors and flickering lights. Also, people taking pictures of the animals here usually get an added bonus. Pictures usually contain a strange fog or are streaked by lights. Anomalous faces often photobomb your pictures as well, as the occasional full-body apparition has been caught on film. How about that?
So cool.
You can ghost hunt with your family while you're just checking out the zoo.
This is the best.
This is also really weird. So check this out. EVPs are said to be particularly intense here, with numerous different mysterious voices, both male and female, loudly speaking through recording devices. Oddly, the voice of former zoo director Dr. Fisher has been recorded in empty areas, even though that man's still alive.
Oh, no, that's not normal.
Yes, that sounds like a doppelganger. That's right. Lions, tigers, and doppelgangers. Oh my.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, if you're looking for something else at this zoo, sorry guys, just intensely lame old paranormal shit and regular old jungle beasts. Well, I mean, that sounds like the zoo for me. There are also many areas of the zoo that suddenly become infused with what have referred to as wandering zones of negative energy that are so strong that many people will become physically ill, like getting sick, and then it's suddenly gone. Just, it's here. I get sick, and boom, it's gone. How about that?
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
There's like a pissed off spirit, or if there's just something
maybe
else
just someone
like
who
a bad spirit there.
I don't know. I'm not reading anything like that. I think that maybe there's, aside from the doppelganger, which we know is a bad deal, I think that maybe certain people with different sensitivities, maybe they don't know about it.
It's just really extreme for them.
Yeah. Right. That's how I take it, because, nobody else is really saying anything bad other than that dude's voice being heard. And I'm like, usually that's not a good thing. So I interviewed someone who had been to the zoo back in the 70s. And he said right away that back then, everyone had known about the place being on top of an old burial ground. Everyone knew, and that was the place where all sorts of weird things happen. And for that very reason, he had been drawn to visit the zoo. Way more than the exhibits or the animals, which, by the way, I read they do actually have some pretty great exhibits. I was just saying that earlier because it's like, why is it free? But they do actually have some pretty cool stuff, the nice animals. And, well, I don't know if they're nice, but decent stuff to look at. They might not be nice. But one thing he added to my story that I didn't find online and is extremely spooky. In the very beginning of my story, I told you that city residents wanted the cemetery moved because of their fears of diseases leaking into the water system. Yeah, well, there's a teensy bit more to that. Apparently, the coffins were either not buried deep enough, or the rising water levels from Lake Michigan helped to carry out a very devious act of raising the coffins back to the surface, which is what prompted the fear in Chicago residents, because basically the deceased were now directly in contact with the water supply. Yeah. Not like, I'm bothered by the proximity. It's like, yeah, they're here.
Yeah, they're floating to the surface, or something. Let's stop that.
Yep. So I think it was not just the residents that were screaming at that point. That's a bad deal when coffins just start coming back up to the surface. You want to get that taken care of. So
it seemed like a poor location for a cemetery in the first place, that being that close and in low land to water, because Lake Michigan's really big, but I'm sure it floods sometimes.
Oh yeah. Sure, they get lots of rain. So yeah, of course it was a bad decision. So anyways, that is my story. I had to run that story past my dad to get his thoughts, and I'd 100% love to hear more about this location from anyone else out there that's listening, because like I said, when I asked my dad, he was like, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that in so long. I really wanted to interview more of my family members about it, but I realized that they already think I'm a weirdo and they might be close to considering an intervention for me. If there even is such a thing as a paranormal intervention, I don't know, but...
Oh, we'd be the first ones to find out if there was.
Dragging me, kicking and screaming. Look, it's just a belief. It's not hurting anybody.
That's the best, though. But your dad never had any experiences there. He just knew the stories of it being like, oh, yeah, that's they say it's haunted or whatever, or they say it's on a burial ground. That's a freaky place.
Yeah,
awesome zoo, though, and it's free.
Right. He said it was an awesome zoo. He said that, back in the day, there really wasn't a lot of good things in Chicago. So just anything like that was a good thing and a reason to just go and visit it. So I think he was interested very much so in the stories of the corpses still buried under the zoo and under Lincoln Park in general. He said that was really a draw for him. But I think once he got there, he was more into the zoo. I was like, Dad, please, please, please tell me you took me when I was a kid. No, I didn't take you. I was like, no, I needed that for my story. And he's like, no, I took you to the other zoo. I was like, but
how dare you?
Never visited. I don't think he had any experiences there, but I didn't get to have more family members that had. I wanted to ask my uncle. I didn't get a chance to check in with him yet to see. So maybe I'll have a follow up to this story. Fingers crossed, hopefully. But
did the reports of the evidence, like obviously getting sick and stuff probably comes from visitors, but the voices and everything that must come from employees, right? Like people that work there that have heard things, or?
I think that it's a mix because they say that it's often and it's on recording devices. So either it's paranormal investigators that are going into the zoo, they know the story and they're reaching out to Dr. Lester because of this one story about the doppelganger, or an employee who recognized his voice had started the story to begin with. You know, he would have worked there with them and he would have recognized his voice.
Yeah.
Turned around and there's nobody there, and then 5 days later he's in there like tidying up, doing whatever, and there it is again. It's like, why do I keep hearing this man's voice? He's not here. So yeah,
I know what
that
Dr. Lester thinks about that.
I wonder too. I wonder if he's just like, leave me alone.
Well, it said that if you like see your doppelganger,
right,
then that's it for you. So Dr. Lester's probably like, never going back there again.
Quite possible. I mean, do you remember on a Ghost Adventures episode where they went to Bobby Mackey's? And I think this is a long time ago. I think it was when Nick and Zach and Aaron were like the trio.
Yeah.
And they heard Zach's voice in a place where Zach wasn't.
Yeah.
Do you remember? They got it on their recording equipment, as a matter of fact, and it sounded just like him. And he's like, how in the hell does that sound just like me? I wasn't even in there. And, it's one of those things where it does happen. Zach is very much still alive, to the best of my knowledge. And at that point,
What if he is a ghost?
What if he is a ghost?
That would be the best. But,
right.
yeah, so I don't know if hearing your voice is the same as seeing it, though that is really creepy. And they didn't call that a doppelganger, did they? Though they thought that was like a demon mimicking their voice back.
They thought they were at Bobby Mackey's too. So that kind of legend is there. So it makes more sense for that to come about. And maybe it's, that could very well have been. I just brought it up because of the reference. But here at the zoo, I mean, Dr. Lester had been there for so long that maybe a spirit got to know him on that level and knows his voice, and that's just their way of trying to communicate by, I don't know, mimicking somebody else's voice instead of it being a bad thing. Because like I said, I didn't really see anything about bad shit happening here.
Yes, and that there's nothing bad really going on there, except for there's this really weird mimicking thing. And that's what I was pointing out. It does relate to the Ghost Adventures thing, because somebody immediately went to saying it's a doppelganger because it can mimic his voice, but that's not what they called it at Bobby Mackey's. When something's mimicking your voice and trying to trick you like that, you might have something doppelgangers aren't great either, but maybe, I don't know why, but maybe there's something even worse there. But what if it's just a residual energy too that's left? I mean, I know he hasn't died yet, but you talk about imprinting emotions where you go places and you can hear like old schools and you hear giggling down the hallway and stuff like that. Those kids didn't die there. You don't even know. Maybe they're still alive, the kids that went there. But it's just heightened energy. And so he probably put a lot of passion into his work. Who wouldn't? Oh my God, when I was a kid, I wanted to work at a zoo so bad.
Me too.
Yeah.
That was like the best.
I was talking about that with my kids just a minute ago, because I was saying, they said something about, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were young? And I said, well, for a long time, it was like a marine biologist. And then I realized I'm not that smart. And so I was like, maybe a vet? Is that okay? And then I soon realized, can't even do that. But maybe I can work at the zoo and clean up the shit. That's where it got lessened to. And obviously I didn't make it there either. But my kid was like, everybody wants to be a marine biologist when they grow up. And I was like, I don't know that everybody does, but we're big animal freaks. So I guess he thought, because we all thought that at one time.
When I was looking into this zoo while you were talking, when I was actually researching it for my story, I found a news article that the Lincoln Park Zoo had posted that was directly geared towards women. And it was like, women want to work at the zoo. You could train animals and I was looking for it so I could show it to you. I was like, oh, I love this.
Wait, it's like a current ad? I might be moving to Chicago. No.
It was an old article. And that's what I thought was so cool about it. Like back in the day, like they were just like, ladies, come on, we need you. We need your help. We need you to come and work for the zoo. And I was like, oh, I love this. It was cute. So I'll have to try and find it. Now I hope it was the Lincoln. I researched a bunch of zoos once I was keyed into this story. So I hope it was the Lincoln Park Zoo that did it. Otherwise, I'll be like issuing oops, sorry, I screwed up again, guys.
Well, that's an odd ad, but I wonder what time period that was. If they were having to meet some kind of equal rights quota, equal opportunity. That's what I'm trying to think of. Equal opportunity.
I think that you're onto something. I think it was definitely back in the day. So I'll have to look it up. I also found something kind of sinister, which doesn't have anything to do with the zoo, but I just wanted to throw this in there. It's a real short little snippet of something that happened in 1977. It happened in 1979. So I just wanted to tell you this really quickly. In 1977, a young respiratory therapist named Teresita Basa was found naked with a knife in her chest inside a burning apartment in Lincoln Park. As police investigated, they received a call from the husband of Basa's coworker claiming his wife, Remy Chua, was going into trances and speaking another language. During the trances, his wife appeared to be channeling Basa, who named an orderly from the hospital where they both worked as the killer. Not only that, according to Johnson, but the voice coming from Chua also listed jewelry taken from Basa's apartment and where it could be found. The voice turned out to be right. An orderly named Alan Showery later was found in possession of the jewelry and convicted of the murder in 1979. So I just thought that was super crazy because that reminded me a lot of the kind of the Larancy situation going on where someone was channeling some information. Yeah, and that also happened in Illinois. Now I know that has nothing to do with my zoo story, but it was in Lincoln Park. So I just had to quickly throw that one in on the tail end.
Like a cherry on top. I love it. I got zoos and some channeling shit. This is the best story.
I knew you'd love that. And just a teeny tiny bit of Abraham Lincoln. So I got to try and squeeze him in as much as I can.
Just a little sprinkle here and there everywhere. It works. I really love this park. Oh my gosh. It sounds like you can spend like multiple days there too and hang out and see all this stuff. All that stuff is still there, right? Like the museum and all the recreation areas and stuff.
Except for the Suicide Bridge. It's gone. But everything else is still there.
It's gone or fenced around it. They tore it down. Nope. Is that what you said?
They tore it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's fair. I don't want to get like tetanus and from the rust and stuff.
No, because we're the kind of people that would be like, we can go on it. Let's do it.
They're kind of the people that probably wouldn't go to the hospital either after getting scratched. I'll just wash it out.
Definitely
It'll be fine.
Right. Peroxide and Band-Aids, we're good.
Yeah. 3 days later, I'm dead. So
gangrene. Yeah. Well, if you have any other interesting stories from Lincoln Park or the zoo itself, why don't you please send us an email? It's creaturesofthenight@gmail. Wait, is it creatures of the night or creatures of the night paranormal @gmail.com?
It's really long. It's creatures of the night paranormal @gmail.com. I'm sorry.
But I bet that would be fascinating, and I would love to hear anybody's personal story. So email us or tweet us, because we're on Twitter and we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram. If you've got some pictures, that'd be great of whatever you saw while you were there.
Oh my gosh, yes. And if you haven't been there, go there and then tell us about it so we know whether we need to pack our bags and get on that train to get out to Chicago. You could probably take a train too from New York to there.
Probably.
And we meet in the middle.
Yeah, we could do that. I don't really like trains, though. My parents used to take trains from Memphis all the time to go to Chicago when we were visiting family. Yeah. And one time the train derailed, and it was like, such a bad deal. But, I'm still here, but it's just, it takes a really long time for that shit to get back on track. But anyways, enough about me. Why don't you write and tell us about you?
And tell us about paranormal stuff, not, lame delays in road trips or train trips or whatever. Tell us about your paranormal experiences in and around this area of Lincoln Park. It doesn't have to be the zoo. It could be anything. Actually, you could just share stories with us anytime. Like we said in a previous podcast, we're trying to put it together where maybe like once a month we're telling your stories. We're spending a podcast telling and sharing your stories, not just finding our own out there. And that way we can just kind of connect this community and become a big old group together. And then you can also rate and review our podcast. And you can leave comments on there anywhere that you listen to the podcast. I know you can do it like on iTunes and everything. So I'm sure you can do it anywhere else that you rate it and review it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then, let us know what you got going on that's paranormal and if you like the podcast or not. And we'll be sharing photos, obviously, from this location. And did you find any of those paranormal photos from the zoo or anything?
Honestly, I didn't even look yet. So,
so maybe they'll be out there. It's always crazy because you'll find like a story on it that they exist, but it's so hard to actually find them posted. Probably because they were taken, a long time ago. Nobody's going to build a website like we did based off of one paranormal picture and then have their whole life spiral into an obsession. Yeah. Not everybody does that. So they might have just shared it with their friends and the word got around type thing. So sometimes it's hard to find these photos, but we'll take a gander and see if we can. Or if you've got those photos, you can share them with us when we share the story on social media.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So that's it until our next spooky story compels you to tune back in. So
yeah, which will just be next week. So don't forget us. Come back next week.
Come back next week.
Yeah. But thank you for listening and
thanks.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.